Ninang sa India ang tumilapon sa ere at sumabit sa bakod matapos mabundol ng SUV.
Nahuli naman kaya ang suspect sa pambubundol sa babae? Ang mga susunod pong pangyayari ating abangan. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Huwebes.
Pagdinig sa Senado sa umano'y maling pag-aresto kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, nagsimula na.
6 na dayuhan at 2 Pilipino inaresto dahil sa pang-espiya sa Subic.
Seoul magpapakalat na 14,000 riot officers para sa impeachment ruling ni Yoon Suk-yeol.
175 prisoners of war nakauwi na matapos ang Ukraine-Russia swap.
At 10 katao patay sa pagsabog ng fuel tanker sa Nigeria. Nagsimula na po ang pagdinig sa Senado para busisiin ang sinasabing maling pag-aresto kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte at pagdala sa kanya sa International Criminal Court or ICC.
Sa kabila nito, naglabas ng dokumento si Senador Amy Marcos na nagsasabing diffusion lang ang hindi pa red notice ang ipinadala ng Interpol sa Pilipinas.
At this juncture, we recognize the isinuko natin si Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa dayuhan na para bang wala siyang sariling bayan, na para bang hindi na natin kayang humusga sa sarili nating tahanan.
Yan ang naging senaryo sa Senado nang kinumpronta ni Senator Amy Marcos ang mga opisyal ng gobyerno na umano'y nagplano para ura-uradang madala sa The Hague ang dating Pangulo kahit walang due process. Binigyan diin ng senadora ng diffusion notice ay hindi sapilitan kundi provisional arrest sa dating Pangulong Duterte. Taliwasaan niya ito sa ginawa ng gobyerno kay FPRRD.
Nag-mobilize ang pamahalaan ng libo-libo, 7,000 ang pinagmalaki na kapulisan para sa isang request for information ng Interpol na unverified. Pinahihingi lang. Walang sinasabing nagmamadali. Pero lahat ng government resources pinaandar na.
Tinukoy rin ni Marcos na matagal nang alam ng gobyerno ang pag-aresto kay Duterte at itinago lamang umano ito ng mga otoridad. Samantala, itinanggi naman ang mga opisyal ng gobyerno na nagkaroon ng grand plan at nakipagsabwatan sila sa ICC para imbestigahan ang umano'y extrajudicial killing sa Pilipinas sa ilalim ng war on drugs ng Duterte administration. Hindi raw nila batid na dumating sa Pilipinas ang puwersa ng ICC para mag-imbestiga at magsilbi ng arrest warrant laban kay dating Pangulong Duterte.
ICC never had does not have jurisdiction over the Philippines, Your Honor. And we did not lift a finger to help them at all.
Nilinaw naman ni Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla, hindi miyembro ang Pilipinas ng ICC, pero kung may individual na nakasuhan gaya ng dating Pangulo, kailangang humarap sa korte alinsunod sa international humanitarian law. Pero sa isang paliwanag ng law professor at law expert na si Attorney Alexi Medina, hindi tama ang paraan ng pagkakaaresto ng mga opisyal o ng mga opisyal ng gobyerno kay dating Pangulo. Anya, nilabag din nila ang mga karapatan ni Duterte.
Surrender without judicial proceedings might amount to a violation of the liberty of abode that is guaranteed by Section 6 of the Bill of Rights. The liberty of abode cannot be impaired without a lawful order of the court.
Hindi pinagbibitiw ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa pwesto si Solicitor General Menardo Guevara. Ito po ang binigyan diin ng Malacanang.
Opo, nagkausap po sila at nakausap ko rin po ang Pangulo patungkol dyan at sinasabi niya po na hindi naman po nawawala ang kanyang tiwala kay Solgen Menardo Guevara.
Ito ay sa kabila ng pagtanggi ni Guevara na tumayong abogado ng mga opisyal ng gobyerno kasunod o kaugnay ng pag-aresto kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Sinabi ni PCO Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro na siya mismo ay nagtanong din sa Pangulo kung nagre-resign o magre-resign nga ba si Soljan Guevara. Si Guevara po ay naging miyembro ng gabinete ni dating Pangulong Duterte.
Ang sabi niya, hindi ko hinihingi ang pagre-resign niya. So yun lang po yung sinabi niya.
Inamin ni Justice Secretary Jesus Remulla na walang pahintulot ang Department of Justice o DOJ sa recusal ni Soljan Menardo Guevara sa Korte Suprema. Kaugnay ito ng consolidated petitions na inihain ng magkakapatid na Duterte sa Korte Suprema na humihiling na mag-issue ito ng writ of habeas corpus upang agad na dalhin at iharap ng mga respondents ang kanilang ama sa Korte. Ipinaliwanag ni Remulla na bukod sa walang clearance ang pagtanggi ni Soljan Guevara na tumayong abogado ng mga respondent ang Office of the Solicitor General ay hindi rin anya nilinaw ni Guevara ang tungkol sa recusal. Gayunpaman, itinuturing anya ni Remulla na personal ang dahilan ni Guevara. Sa pagtanggi ng OSG ay DOJ na ang magsisilbing abogado ng mga respondents sa habeas corpus petitions at tiniyak din ni Remulla na higit pa sa sapat ang kakayahan ng DOJ para idepensa ang gobyerno sa harap ng Korte Suprema.
Hinikayat po ng Malacanang si Vice President Sara Duterte na umuwi para gampanan ang kanyang tungkulin sa Office of the Vice President or OVP. Dapat din nilang harapin ng bise ang kinasasangkutan nitong kontrobersya sa paggamit ng confidential funds ng kanyang tanggapan. Sinabi ni Palace Press Officer Claire Castro na kahit may presumption of regularity ay dapat patunayan ng bise kung totoo o hindi ang mga bagong questionableng resibo ng OVP para sa confidential funds. Samantala, muling dumistansya ang Malacanang sa impeachment trial ni VP Sara kasunod ng paghahanda ng Kamara sa nasabing kaso na pawang mga private lawyers daw ang hahawak. Binanggit na lamang ni Castro na kung naniniwala ang mga naturang abogado na may grounds para ma-convict ang Vice Presidente ay sila na ang kailangang magpatunay. Binigyan din ito na walang responsibilidad ang Malacanang sa mangyayari sa impeachment trial.
Bilang isang vice-presidente ay may tungkulin din ako sa isang Filipino citizen na nakapiit ng labag sa kanyang kalooban sa International Criminal Court o ICC. Yan ang sagot ni Vice President Sara Duterte sa panawagan ng Malacanang na bumalik na siya sa Pilipinas para gampanan ang kanyang trabaho sa Office of the Vice President o OVP. Kasalukuyang nasa The Hague sa the Netherlands ang bise dahil binubuo nila ang legal team para sa kanyang amang si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na inaresto noong March 11 dahil umano sa kasong crimes against humanity kaugnay ng war on drugs nito.
Pero as Vice President, may duty din ako sa isang kababayan natin, isang Filipino citizen who is held against his will dito sa ICC Detention Center. So, wag na nating isipin na tatay ko siya. Isipin na lang natin na Vice President ako at gumagawa ako ng paraan kung paano maibalik natin ang isang Filipino citizen sa ating bayan.
Ipinaliwanag ni VP Sara na ayaw din niyang manatili sa The Hague dahil ang kanyang pamilya at trabaho ay nasa Pilipinas. Hindi rin niya nakakalimutan ang kanyang trabaho sa OVP.
At hindi ko nakakalimutan ang aking trabaho dyan sa Office of the Vice President. Araw-araw kami nag-uusap ng aking mga kasamahan. Iilan na lang naman po ang naiwan na projects dahil approximately 700 million yung budget namin dyan. At yung projects namin, karamihan ay magdedepende sa end of school year ng mga kabataan dahil nakatutok kami sa advokasya namin sa edukasyon. So ang preparations namin ay before magbukas ang bagong school year sa mga gida areas ng mga public schools natin. So, yes, multitasking ako. Nandito ako as Vice President, ginagawa ng paraan paano maibalik ang ating dating Pangulo sa ating bayan. Nagtatrabaho ako through our satellite offices through our central office of the Office of the Vice President. Tuloy-tuloy ang serbisyo namin para sa bayan. At yes, wala po akong balak na tumira dito sa Netherlands. Hindi ko po gusto tumagal dito.
Inaresto ang 62 Pilipino na hinihinalang nagsasagawa ng espionage and kidnapping activities sa Grade Island sa Subic, Zambales. Ayon sa Department of National Defense o DND, kabilang sa mga dayuhang inaresto ay 5 Chinese nationals at 1 Cambodian. Ang 8 individual ay lumabag sa Securities Regulation Code at Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Na-recover din ng mga otoridad ang iba't ibang cellular phones, laptop at isang caliber .9mm and 26 rounds na naturang baril mula sa mga suspect. At dahil sa pagkakadakip sa mga suspect, pinag-aaralan ng DND na ideklara ang Grande Island at kalapit nitong Chiquita Island bilang military reservations.
Inamin ni Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla na tumanggi ang Malaysia na magbigay ng impormasyon sa Pilipinas ukol sa pagtakas sa bansa ni dating Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Go. Alam niya ng Malaysia ang mga detalye kung paanong nakalabas ng Pilipinas si Go, gaya ng flight records nito at kung anong eroplano ang ginamit ito patungong Malaysia. Naniniwala ang kalihim na may kinalaman sa issue ng Sabah ang dahilan kung bakit ayaw makipagtulungan ng Malaysia sa Pilipinas. Matatandaan na noong taong 2022 ay inatasan ng isang French arbitration court ang Malaysia na bayaran nito ang mga tagapagmana ng huling sultan ng Sulu dahil sa isang kasunduan sa Sabah. Pero umapela ang Malaysia taong 2024 kung saan nabigo mga tagapagmana ng huling sultan ng Sulu na makuha ang $14.9 billion award. Samantala, umaasa si Remulla na mauunawaan ng Senado ang Bureau of Immigration na talagang walang ideya ito kung paanong nakalabas ng Pilipinas si Go.
The case of Alice Gore is a very peculiar case because Malaysia refused to cooperate with us. Malaysia is supposed to give us the information. They know what flight entered, what aircraft entered, where she was riding, but they refused to give it to us. For some reasons that were given, that were alluded to about the cases of our brothers in the South that won a judgment in Paris and they wanted a deal for that matter. So it's beyond the DOJ already. Lahat ginawa na namin eh. We're already at the DFA level, but they have not. We have faced the stone wall. That's why.
Samantala, tinanggihan ng Timor-Leste Court of Appeals ang extradition request ng Pilipinas kay dating Negros Oriental Representative Arnulfo Arnie Teves Jr. ayon sa Department of Justice o DOJ. Nahaharap si Teves sa mga kasong murder sa Pilipinas. Sinabi ng DOJ na hindi pa sila nakatatanggap ng opisyal na kopya ng desisyon ng Korte ng Timor-Leste. Ngunit para sa kampo ni Teves, pinuri ng mga abogado niya ang desisyon ng Timor-Leste Court of Appeals at sinabing isa raw itong triumph of the rule of law.
Sinabi po ni Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Saturnino Browner Jr. na kinukonsidera ng Pilipinas na bumili ng iba pang uri ng missile systems sa India. Bukod sa BrahMos missiles, ay nais din ng AFP na bumili ng fighter aircraft at mga sasakyang pandagat para palakasin ang hukbo militar ng Pilipinas. Tinitingnan din niya ng Pilipinas ang lahat ng posibilidad, lalo na at nasa proseso na modernisasyon ng AFP dahil sa bullying tactics ng China. Nakababahalaan niya ang ginagawa ng China dahil parami ang mga islang inaangkin nito. Samantala, pinuri ni Browner ang relasyon ng Pilipinas at India. Lalo niya itong lumalakas habang lumilipas ang panahon.
Pumangatlo ang Pilipinas bilang bansa sa Asia na nakararanas ng unusual heat dahil sa climate change, ayon sa non-profit group na Climate Central. Mula sa inilabas na ulat ng grupo, nalaman ng mga siyentipiko na makararanas o nakararanas ang Pilipinas ng temperaturang umaabot sa Climate Shift Index o CSI Level 2 o 74 days na nakaranas ang bansa ng mataas na temperatura. Ang CSI ay isang sistema na binuo ng Climate Central para ma-quantify ang local influence ng climate change sa temperatura ng isang bansa. Kapag mas mataas ang level ng CSI, mas malaki ang impluwensya ng climate change. Nangunguna sa listahan ng Brunei Darussalam na may 83 days. Sinundan naman ito ng Maldives na 81 days, Pilipinas, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, Malaysia, Singapore, Yemen at Myanmar. Susunod, North Korea nagpadala ng babala sa Japan.
Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky nagkausap ulit matapos ang ceasefire deal.
At Vladimir Putin at Donald Trump nagkasundo sa ceasefire deal. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Ngayong Sabado sa Motorcycle Republic.
Sa Saturday, pupunta tayo sa Amadeo para sa isang kakaibang coffee ride kasi hindi lang tayo iinom ng kape. Opportunity ito para mas may matutunan tayo tungkol sa proseso na pinagdadaanan ng kape. Samahan nyo kami sa ride namin ngayon. Enjoyin natin yung biyahe papunta doon at enjoyin din natin yung mga bagay na matututunan natin sa destination natin today.
Isasama namin kayo tuwing Sabado, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Let's net together sa NET25.
Binalaan ng North Korea ang Japan laban sa pagpapalipad ng missile sa Kyushu region sa Japan. Ayon sa Korea Central News Agency o KCNA, ang opisyal na pahayagan ng North Korea, nagpadala ng babala ang North Korea sa Tokyo ukol sa posibilidad ng patuloy na pagtaas ng tensyon sa kanilang rehiyon kapag itinuloy ng Japan ang pinaplano nitong pagpapadala ng long-range capable missiles hanggang o sa hilagang bahagi ng kanilang bansa. Kasunod ito ng isang ulat na nagsasabing tinitignan ng Japan na maglagay ng long-range missile sa Kyushu upang magkaroon ng counter-strike and defense capabilities ang naturang bansa laban sa mga potensyal na pag-atake o emergency situations. Ikinagalit naman ito ng Pyongyang kung saan inakusahan nila ang Japan sa pagpapatuloy ng history of aggression nito sa kanilang pagpapalakas ng Japan-US military alliance at pakikipag-alyado sa NATO. Dagdag pa nito, sinabi nilang all military means and various forms of movement directly targeting the DPRK are an object to be wiped out. Matagal nang kinokondena ng North Korea ang ginagawang galaw ng Japan at South Korea kung saan inakusahan nila ang United States, Japan at South Korea na nanghihimok umano kay Kim Jong-un kung kaya't iniutos nito ang pagpapalawig ng defense capabilities ng kanyang bansa.
Magtatalaga naman ng 14,000 right officers ang Seoul sa mismong araw ng impeachment ruling ni dating South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. Ito ay para maging response team ng kapulisan dahil sa posible mga magsasagawa ng kilos protesta sa araw na iyon. Ang bilang pong ito ay katumbas naman ng halos 60% ng lahat ng riot control forces na maaari ipakalat sa mga lugar na nasa highest level of security alert. Samantala, nauna na rito ay magtatalaga na sana ng 12,000 officials sa Seoul, subalit dahil sa pagtaas ng tsansang magkaroon ng mga pag-atake sa lugar, dinagdagan na ito ng mga otoridad. Inaasahan po kasi ng mga otoridad na ang mga protesta at mga pag-atake ay maaaring sa mga major facilities isagawa, kabilang na ang korte kung saan isasagawa ang naturang ruling. Sa ngayon ay nakaantabay na ang mga kapulisan para sa deployment ng mga riot officers sa mga bahagi ng Constitutional Court kung saan nakastambay din ang Special Police Forces.
175 prisoners of war ang sa wakas ay pinakawalan noong Miyerkules nang magpalitan ng mga bihag ang Ukraine at Russia. Alamin natin ang balita mula kay JC Umul.
Kapwa kinumpirma ng Ukraine at Russia ang palitan ng mga bihag sa gyera na naganap noong Miyerkules. Ang prisoner exchange ay matapos ang tawag sa telepono sa pagitan nina US President Donald Trump at Russian President Vladimir Putin. 175 prisoners of war ang iniulat na pinakawalan ng dalawang partido. Nagsoli ng karagdagang 22 sugatang Ukrainian prisoner ang Russia. Sa X, nag-post si Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky na ang palitang ito ang pinakamalaki. Aniya, ang 22 Ukrainian ay severely wounded warriors na inuusig ng Russia ng inimbentong mga krimen. Ani ni Zelensky, lahat ay tatanggap ng agarang tulong medikal at psikolohikal. Samantala, sa isang pahayag sinabi ng Russia na ang 175 Ukrainian soldiers ay ipinalit sa 175 Russian servicemen. Ang karagdagang 22 Ukrainian prisoner na kailangan ng agarang atensyong medikal ay inilarawan ng Russia na isang goodwill gesture. Ayon sa Defense Ministry, namagitan ang United Arab Emirates sa kasunduan. JC Umul para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Naniniwala naman si Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na maaaring makamit na ngayong taon ang pamatagalang kapayapaan.
Я думаю, що розмова була б ще довшою. Я вважаю, що вона була предметна. За останній час, напевно, найпредметніша і позитивна. Настрій був правильний, достатньо деталізований. Ми проговорили про наші наступні кроки, вимог щодо часткового припинення вогню. Від американської сторони ми отримали сигнали, що, скоріш за все, мова йдеться про енергетичну тишу, не бити по енергетиці обох країн, енергетичній інфраструктурі, а також мова йдеться про цивільну інфраструктуру. І тут я сказав президенту Трампу, що цивільна інфраструктура дуже всеосяжне таке поняття. І ми домовилися, що ми з нашого боку зробимо все, щоб підготувати список об'єктів, які ми вважаємо там пріоритетними, і що ми вважаємо цивільною інфраструктурою. Ми підготуємо, і тут може бути і також різна інфраструктура, і інфраструктурні речі, як залізниця, а також ми будемо говорити про портову інфраструктуру. Я не знаю, що підтвердять партнери, але ми підготуємось до цієї зустрічі в Саудівській Аравії. Так, це що стосується додаткових вимог, я вам сказав ні.
Ito kasi ang tinalakay nila nang makausap sila ni US President Donald Trump sa telepono. Ang nasabing pag-uusap ay isang araw matapos na tinawagan din ni Trump si Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ang nasabing pag-uusap ay inilatag ng US ang maaaring kondisyon para kapatumugon ang Ukraine at Russia. Bukod po sa nasabing pangmatagalang ceasefire ay ang pagtigil na rin sa pag-atake sa mga energy facilities. Magugunitang nagkaroon na ng pag-uusap ang kinatawan ng US at si Zelensky sa Saudi Arabia noong nakaraang linggo. Habang muling mag-uusap sa telepono sa araw ng Lunes sila Trump at Putin matapos na hindi sumang-ayon ng Russia sa full ceasefire.
Передусім, я хочу підкреслити абсолютно відверто. Питання території буде найскладніше. І я це відчуваю, ми це розуміємо, і це буде для нас, для всіх виклик. І ми будемо захищати максимально Україну в цих питаннях. Але нам буде дуже непросто. Президент Трамп і сьогодні від мене абсолютно він розуміє, що юридично ми не визнаємо ніякі території. І питання, чи спроможні ми відновити цю станцію, ми про це проговорили. На мою думку, я сказав, що тільки станція цього недостатньо, тому що там повинна бути відповідна інфраструктура, і повинно бути водозабезпечення, і також технічний персонал. І цього дуже багато кроків для того, щоб за 2,5 роки станція почала приносити гроші, приносити те, що вона повинна приносити, електрику, передусім для людей. І оце моє бачення. І президент запитав, а якщо буде розуміння, що Америка може це відновити, я йому сказав, так, якщо можна модернізувати, вкладати гроші, тощо, ми готові це обговорювати з вами. Але ми говорили виключно про одну станцію, яка знаходиться під тимчасовою окупацією Росії.
Tinanggap na ng Ukraine ang unconditional ceasefire proposal na inihain sa kanila ng Estados Unidos. Matapos ang pag-uusap ni US President Donald Trump at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, ay iniulat ng Ukraine na tinanggap na ng kanilang presidente ang ceasefire proposal na inihain ng Trump team. Sa isang post sa X ay inihayag ni Zelensky ang kanilang kahandaan na itigil na ang nangyayaring pakikipagdigmaan sa kanlurang rehiyon. Nangako rin ito na hindi nila tatamaan ang essential Russian infrastructure sa pagkakataong pumayag na rin ang Russia dito. Inanunsyo naman ng White House na magsisimula na ang negosasyon patungo sa isang full ceasefire sa mga susunod na araw sa Saudi Arabia.
Today, President Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had a fantastic phone conversation. President Zelensky thanked President Trump for a productive start for the work of the Ukrainian and American teams in Jeddah on March 11th. The leaders agreed Ukraine and America will continue working together to bring about a real end to the war, and that lasting peace under President Trump's leadership can be achieved. President Trump fully briefed President Zelensky on his conversation with Putin and the key issues discussed.
Sinabi naman ni Zelensky na isa itong hakbang patungo sa mapayapang kinabukasan para sa Ukraine. Sa kabila ng kanyang hindi pagkilala sa ibang teritoryo ng Ukraine bilang Russian-occupied, ay bukas ito sa pananaw ni Trump na peace through strength. Sa ilang okasyon na rin ay sinubukan ni US President Donald Trump na barasuhin ang isang peace deal sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Ngunit nahihirapan ito dahil sa pangamba ng kanilang mga kaalyado sa Europa dahil sa pagiging malapit nito kay Russian President Vladimir Putin.
President Zelensky asked for additional air defense systems to protect his civilians, particularly Patriot missile systems, and President Trump agreed to work with him to find what was available, particularly in Europe. The two leaders also agreed on a partial ceasefire against energy. Technical teams will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to discuss broadening the ceasefire to the Black Sea on the way to a full ceasefire. We are now focused on a long-term peace agreement. As you know, on that deal or that meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump, the Ukrainian president at the time wasn't talking about a greater peace deal. We are now at that place where we are talking about that. So we've moved beyond just the economic minerals deal framework, and we're looking at a lasting ceasefire. Right now, we're at a partial ceasefire. But again, the president is sending his highly skilled, intelligent, and experienced team to Saudi Arabia later this week to continue fighting for peace in this conflict.
Nagtipon po ang mga leader ng European Union sa Brussels upang talakayin ang mahahalagang issues katulad ng digmaan sa Russia at Ukraine, pagpapalakas ng depensa at ekonomiya ng rehiyon.
So these are decisive days for Europe, and we have a packed agenda for the European Council. Of course, we will discuss Ukraine, how to get to a just and lasting peace. But we are challenged in our competitiveness, and we are challenged in our security agenda. So therefore, the competitiveness topic will be an important one for this European Council. And then Readiness 2030, the white paper, the new plan for security will also be in the center of discussion that we're going to have today.
Bilang tugon sa lumalaking banta sa seguridad, inilunsad ng EU ang isang €800 billion plan upang palakasin ang depensa ng Europa. Layunin nitong pondohan ang produksyon ng armas, dagdagan ng supply at lakasin ang kakayahang militar ng rehiyon upang mabawasan ang pagdedepende sa Estados Unidos. Bilang bahagi ng mas malawak na plano sa depensa, iminungkahi rin ang isang 150 billion loan program na pupondohan sa pamamagitan naman ng pagpapalabas ng EU bonds sa pandaigdigang merkado. May plano rin gamitin ang 10 trilyon na pribadong ipon ng mga mamamayan ng EU upang suportahan ang industry of defense.
So we already saw that Kaja Kallas has proposed to put together the fund for up to 40 billion to step up the support for Ukraine, military support mainly. But we don't have much details how this fund would be, put together. What we already know, this is Hungary's statement that Hungary would not want, Orban would not want to put any money into that fund. So we know that one member state is already opposing to, make this fund at the union level. But what we can see is that, member states could voluntarily put their contributions to that fund.
Ang programang ito ay ang nangangailangan pa ng formal na pag-aproba mula sa miyembrong estado. Dumalo po sa summit ang 27 countries kasapi ng European Union. Kabilang na po dito ang Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain at Sweden. Gayunpaman, patuloy na tinututulan ng Hungary ang pagbibigay ng karagdagang tulong militar sa Ukraine na nagdudulot ng pagkakahati sa mga miyembro ng EU. Sa kabila ng mga hamon, nananatiling determinado ang EU na palakasin ang sariling depensa at ekonomiya upang harapin ang mga umiiral na banta at mapanatili ang seguridad at katatagan sa nasabing rehiyon.
Für uns ist zentral, dass die Ukraine als unabhängige, souveräne und demokratische Nation bestehen bleibt, dass sie ihren Weg in die Europäische Union fortsetzen kann und dass sie auch nach einem Friedensschluss über eine starke eigene Armee verfügt. Das sind Dinge, die wir gewährleisten müssen. Und dazu gehört natürlich auch jetzt, dass auf Basis der Vorschläge von Präsident Zelensky die Möglichkeit eines Waffenstillstandes zustande kommt. Jetzt gibt es einen ersten Schritt, der möglich scheint angesichts der Ergebnisse des Gesprächs zwischen dem russischen Präsidenten und dem amerikanischen Präsidenten. Aber der muss jetzt auch Realität werden und das muss enden in einem Waffenstillstand, der auch dann tatsächlich hält und diese Kriterien erfüllt.
Ipinahayag ng Estados Unidos na sumang-ayon sina Pangulong Donald Trump at Russian President Vladimir Putin ukol sa pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa Ukraine. Gayon din kinumpirma ng Russia na pumayag si Putin ukol sa mungkahi ni Trump ukol sa paghinto ng pag-atake sa energy targets nito sa Ukraine. Narito si Jeff Sanidad para sa mga karagdagang detalye.
Agad nasisimulan ang pag-uusap ukol sa pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa Ukraine. Iyan ang pahayag ng White House matapos mag-usap sa telepono nina US President Donald Trump at Russian President Vladimir Putin noong Martes. Ayon sa White House, nagkasundo ang dalawang lider ukol sa pagwawakas ng giyera sa Ukraine. Batay sa pahayag, magsisimula ang aksyon tungo sa kapayapaan sa energy at infrastructure ceasefire. Gayon din sa negosasyong teknikal ukol sa pagpapatupad ng maritime ceasefire sa Black Sea, pangkalahatang ceasefire at permanenteng kapayapaan. Ayon sa White House, agad na magsisimula ang negosasyon sa gitnang silangan. Samantala, kinumpirma rin ng Kremlin ang pagpayag ni Putin sa mungkahi ni Trump na tigilan ng Russia at Ukraine ang pag-atake sa energy infrastructure ng isa't isa sa loob ng 30 araw. Ayon sa Kremlin, ipinagutos agad ito ng Pangulo sa Russian military. Simula noong 2022, target na ng malawakang pag-atake ng Russia ang energy infrastructure ng Ukraine. Ito ang dahilan ng blackouts at matinding lamig para sa milyon-milyong katao sa Ukraine. Jeff Sanidad para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Isinisi naman ng Estados Unidos sa Hamas at sa Hamas lamang ang pagpapatuloy na labanan sa Gaza. Ayon dito, susuportahan ng US ang mga susunod na hakbang ng Israel. Marjorie Quintos para sa report.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni Acting U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Dorothy Shea na Hamas lamang ang responsable sa pagpapatuloy ng labanan sa Gaza.
The blame for the resumption of hostilities lies solely with Hamas. This brutal terrorist organization has steadfastly refused every proposal and deadline they've been presented over the past few weeks, including a bridge proposal to extend the ceasefire beyond Ramadan and Passover, to allow time to negotiate a framework for a permanent ceasefire. Hamas refused this offer, preferring still to hold hostages captive and hide amongst the people of Gaza, using them as human shields. It is the people of Gaza who will suffer further because of Hamas's disregard for human life.
Humarap si Shea sa UN Security Council matapos ipahayag ng Palestinian Health Authorities na inulan na naman ng Israeli airstrikes ang Gaza, kung saan higit sa 400 katao ang namatay. Tinapos nito ang ilang linggong kapayapaan matapos mabinbin ang usapan ukol sa pangmatagalang ceasefire. Dagdag ni Shea, malinaw na sinabi ni Pangulong Donald Trump na kailangang pakawalan ng Hamas ang hostages nito. Kung hindi, magbabayad aniya ito ng malaki. Ani Shea, susuportahan ng US ang mga susunod na hakbang ng Israel. Anya, kinukundina rin ng US ang paggamit ng Hamas sa infrastrukturang sibilyan bilang launching pad. Samantala, binigyan din ni Russian Deputy UN Ambassador Dmitry Polyansky ang napakasamang kalagayan ngayon ng mga residente ng Gaza. Nanawagan ito sa konseho na gawin ang lahat upang ibalik ang tigil putukan.
Когда делегации Алжира и Сомали запрашивали наш сегодняшний брифинг для обсуждения деградирующей гуманитарной ситуации в секторе Газа, они вряд ли могли предположить, что накануне произойдет резкое обострение ситуации и все договоренности о прекращении огня фактически будут обнулены. В ночь на 18 марта авиация Израиля возобновила авиаудары по Газе, которые привели к новым жертвам. Сообщается о более чем 400 погибших, а также о подготовке Цахал к наземной операции в анклаве. Таким образом, режим прекращения огня был нарушен, и трагедия простых палестинцев приобрела новое измерение. Эта трагедия разворачивается на наших с вами глазах уже 1,5 года. За время военной операции Израиля от сектора и так практически ничего не осталось, кроме дымящихся руин. А счет погибших мирных газовитян перевалил за 48 тысяч. Гуманитарный кризис в анклаве приобрел поистине библейские масштабы, что подтверждают и представленные сегодня оценки Гумкрыла ООН. В складывающихся обстоятельствах Совет Безопасности ООН должен сделать все возможное для безотлагательного восстановления режима прекращения огня и для возобновления выполнения договоренностей между Израилем и Хамас. Мы не должны повторять прежних ошибок. Ведь число погибших в Газе за эти 1,5 года мирных палестинцев столь велико, в том числе и потому, что Совет Безопасности ООН не смог принять решение о более раннем установлении режима прекращения огня. Это горький урок, который члены Совета должны усвоить и не повторять. Ведь никакие политические соображения не могут оправдать подобного промедления, стоившего жизни такого числа мирных жителей.
Kinundina naman ni Chinese UN Ambassador Fu Kong ang paggamit bilang sandata at pamumulitika sa humanitarian aid. Hinimok nito ang Israel na ituloy ang walang hadlang na pagpasok ng tulong sa Gaza.
我们强烈反对把人道救援武器化和政治化的行为。截止今天，已经连续17天没有任何人道物资进入加沙，海水淡化厂也因失去电力供应难以运转。 导致水资源短缺危机加剧，把人道救援作为谈判筹码，违反国际法，特别是国际人道法，中方予以谴责。我们敦促以色列履行占领方的国际人道法义务，立即全面恢复加沙的人道物资准入。我们强烈呼吁重振两国方案的政治前景。 落实两国方案是解决巴勒斯坦问题的唯一可行出路。加沙、约旦河西岸，包括东耶路撒冷，都是巴勒斯坦国不可分割的组成部分。
Sa kabila nito, itinanggi ni Israeli Deputy Ambassador to the United Nations Jonathan Miller na may kakulangan ng pagkain sa Gaza.
In addition to the thousands of aid trucks, bakeries are operational across Gaza, producing millions of loaves of bread daily. In northern Gaza alone, increased fuel deliveries resulted in a 40% increase in bakery output. The slander that the people of Gaza are currently starving is quite simply untrue.
Isinisi ni Miller ang paghihirap sa Gaza sa Hamas.
If there is suffering in Gaza, it is not because of a lack of aid. It is because Hamas has hijacked an entire civilian population for its own violent ends. Hamas diverts food, Hamas hoards fuel, Hamas transforms hospitals, schools, and UN facilities into command centers, ensuring that even in the presence of humanitarian aid, suffering persists. But somehow, in the debates of this council, Hamas is an afterthought, a footnote, a mere inconvenience in the preferred narrative.
Marjorie Quintos para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, 10 patay sa pagsabog sa Nigeria.
Gina sa India, tumilapon matapos mabundol ng SUV.
At empleyado sa California na naksak ng shoplifter. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Hindi bababa sa 10 katao sa Nigeria ang namatay mula sa pagsabog ng isang fuel tanker malapit sa Karu Bridge.
For that Karu Bridge.
Ayon sa lokal na ulat, bago ang insidente, nawala ng kontrol ang tanker at tumagilid ito malapit sa tulay. Ilang sandali ay nagliyab ang tanker at tuloy nang sumabog sa daan. Kinumpirma ng Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Department na sa higit 30 sasakyan ang nadamay sa impact ng pagsabog ng Karu Bridge. Rumisponde naman ang Federal Fire Service sa incident site para apulahin ang apoy. Tumulong na rin ang Nigeria Police Force at National Emergency Management Agency para sumaklolo sa mga individual na apektado ng pagsabog.
Arestado ang isang lalaki sa India matapos bundulin ng isang ginang na naglalakad lamang sa daan. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nagsimula ang lahat sa pagtatalo ng sospek at ng kapitbahay nito. Dahil sa init ng ulo ng sospek ay inararo nito ang kanyang kapitbahay na nakasakay pa sa motorsiklo gamit ang kanyang sasakyan. Dito na nadamay ang ginang. Mapapansin mula sa CCTV footage na dahil sa sobrang lakas ng impact ng pagbunggo sa babae ay lumipad at sumabit ang binti nito sa bakod. Buti na lamang at may mga taong tumulong sa babae na makababa mula sa nasabing bakod. Kapwa nakaligtas ang dalawang biktima sa pang-aararo ng sospek pero nagtamo mga ito ng sugat sa ilang bahagi ng katawan. Sinibukan na namang tumakas ng sospek pero nahuli rin ito ng mga pulis. Kinasuhan ng sospek ng attempted murder, negligent driving at injuring a pedestrian ng mga otoridad.
Inaresto ng mga pulis ang isang empleyado ng convenience store sa San Francisco, California matapos itong manaksak ng umano'y shoplifter. Kinumpirma ng pulisya na sinaksak na suspect sa mata ang biktima na kinilala bilang si Larry Whitlock ng isang kutsilyo. Dinala sa ospital sa Whitlock para sa medical attention. Subalit, kinasuhan pa rin ito ng battery and petty theft. Kinasuhan naman ng assault charges ang empleyado ng store at nahaharap ito sa 4 na taong pagkakabilanggo. Sa kabila nito, naging tulong na rin ang bagong batas sa Estados Unidos, naging felony ang shoplifting. Nabigyan po kasi nito ng kapangyarihan ang mga pulis laban sa mga kawatan.
Nagpasya ang isang Dominican Republic judge na palayain ang huling nakitang kasama ni Sudiksha Konanki, isang US student na nawala habang nagbabakasyon sa Punta Cana. Bakit kaya ito ang naging desisyon ng judge? Si Kathleen Gao para sa report.
Batay sa pasya ni Dominican Republic Judge Edwin Rijo, kailangan palayain mula sa police surveillance ang witness na sinasabing huling nakita kasama ni US student Sudiksha Konanki bago ito naglaho. Sa pagdinig ng kaso sa lungsod ng Higüey, sinabi ni Rijo na ang 22-year-old na si Joshua Riibe sa ngayon ay walang ipinakikitang anumang bagay liban sa pagiging saksi. Kalakip ng desisyong ito, sinabi ng judge na maaaring gumalaw ng malaya si Ribe sa Dominican territory dahil ito ay witness lamang. Hindi anya kailangang i-monitor ito o pagkaitan ng kalayaan.
Se debe cesar cualquier amenaza a la libertad de este ciudadano, porque en el día de hoy no se ha podido demostrar de que el mismo no pase de la tipología que se le ha dado de testigo. Ahora bien, yo tampoco puedo limitar a los órganos investigativos del Estado a parar en cuanto a su investigación bajo ninguna circunstancia. Entonces, el tribunal acoge este habeas corpus siempre y cuando que las actuaciones que se realicen sean contrarias a lo que establece la Constitución y las leyes.
Katulad ni Konanki, si Ribe ay isang estudyante rin sa US. Sa kasalukuyan, hindi pa tiyak ang pagbalik ni Ribe sa US dahil wala pang desisyon ukol sa passport nito na kinumpiska ng mga otoridad. Si Konanki ay isang 20-year-old na pre-med student. Nawala ito noong 6 ng Marso habang nag-i-spring break trip sa Punta Cana. Hindi pa nagsasampa ng anumang kasong kriminal ang Dominican authorities laban kay Ribe, subalit sinasabi nitong mahalaga ang testimonya ng saksi sa investigasyon. Ito ay bilang siya ang huling nakakita kasama ni Konanki bago ito nawala. Samantala, patay sa pahayag ng isang police source, hiniling ng mga magulang ni Konanki na ideklarang legally deceased na ito. Ang investigasyon ay nananatiling bukas. Kathleen Ga para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Muli pong nanalo ang Finland sa ika-8 pagkakataon bilang happiest country in the world ngayong taon ayon sa World Happiness Report noong Huwebes. Kasama ng Finland sa top 5 ang mga kalapit nitong Nordic countries na Denmark, Iceland at Sweden. Unang beses namang nakapasok sa top 10 ang Latin American country na Costa Rica at Mexico sa nasabing report. Nasa rank 27 namang makikita ang Taiwan na may tuturing na happiest country sa Asia. Samantalang Pilipinas ay umakyat ng rank 53 mula sa dati nitong ranking na 76th. Ang US, UK at ilang mga bansa sa Europa ay kasama naman sa mga lugar na bumaba ang ranking dahil sa lumalalang geopolitical tension. Ayon sa pagsusuri, bagamat maraming maaaring pagmula ng kasiyahan ng isang tao, ang pinakamahalaga ay ang paggawa ng kabutihan sa kapwa.
At para po madoble pa ang cybersecurity capabilities ng Alphabet, ay bibiling ito ng Wiz sa halagang $32 billion. Kaugnay pa rin ito sa karera ng mga tech giants sa cloud computing. Nais ng Alphabet na maunahan ang Amazon at Microsoft sa pamamagitan ng Wiz. Sa kabila ng malaking halaga ay una ng tiranggihan ng Israeli startup ang offer ng Alphabet na $23 billion bid. Bagaman nasa negotiation phase ang deal, sinasabi ng mga sources mula sa Estados Unidos na isinasaayos na ni Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian ang kasunduan sa dalawang kumpanya. Hindi naman nagbigay ng komento ang Wiz hinggil sa buyout ng Alphabet.
Itinampok ng Disney ang kanilang real-life Star Wars droid sa annual conference ng NVIDIA sa San Jose, California. Ayon sa Disney Robotics, kilala ang mga robots sa tawag na BDX droids. Lumabas ang mga BDX droids sa pelikulang The Mandalorian, gayon din sa dalawang video games ng franchise na Fallen Order at Survivor. Bagaman hindi autonomous ang mga droids, ay kaya pa rin makontrol mismo ng robot ang balanse at pagtayo nito sa tulong na rin ng reinforcement learning. Karaniwang makikita ang mga models ng DBX droids sa mga Disney parks at Disney cruise para magpakitang gilas sa mga bisita.
So what's interesting about these droids is that they learn how to walk with reinforcement learning. So we use reinforcement learning that is similar to how we humans learn to walk. So we bring these droids into a simulation environment, and so we have some artist-provided motion. And so at the beginning they fall all the time if they try to take first steps, but then we ask them to imitate artist-provided motion. So over time they know how to walk in a stylized way that is authentic to the character.
Naniniwala po ang International Committee or International Olympic Committee o IOC na tuluyan na makakasama ang boxing sa 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Sinabi ni IOC Chief Thomas Bach na nakabuo na ng bagong governing body ang boxing. Inaprubahan kasi ng Executive Board ng IOC ang boxing sa 2028 program matapos na kinilalan ang World Boxing na siyang mangangasiwa ng nasabing sports sa Olympics. Para tuluyang mapasama ang sports ay kailangan muna ito ng tuluyang aprubahan ng 100 members ng IOC sa mga susunod na araw. Magugunitang ang IOC na ang nag-organisa ng boxing tournaments noong Tokyo Olympics 2021 and Paris Olympics noong nakaraang taon matapos ang pagkakawatak-watak ng International Boxing Association ng Russia dahil sa usapin ng pera, pamumuno at hindi pagkakaisa.
It's an exciting moment. First of all, I want to stress this is a significant milestone. Having boxing back in the Olympic program is the result of very hard work from the whole world boxing team, all the national federations, the Olympic Commission with Mr. Gennady Golovkin, and everyone who support the sport of boxing, Olympic-style boxing. So for us, we are here. For us, a moment to celebrate. It's not on me. It's not a competition. The ultimate goal for world boxing, as always, was to keep the Olympic dream alive for every boxer in every gym in the world. And we visit together many boxing gyms in the last few years, like in not only Kazakhstan but also in India, Mongolia, Algeria recently. And there I saw their young boys, young girls, 70, 80 people working hard to achieve their ultimate goal, to represent their country at the Olympic Games. And that's our task, that's our main goal, and that is achieved today with the re-inclusion of boxing in the LA program.
Inilabas na ni BTS member J-Hope ang preview ng kanyang upcoming solo single album na Mona Lisa. Sinorpresa ni J-Hope ang kanyang mga tagahanga nang unang ipinarinig ng Bride Music sa kanilang account sa social media site na X ang preview ng kanyang solo single album na Mona Lisa. Sa opisyal na anunsyo ng Weverse, ang awiting ito ay R&B hip-hop inspired at naglalarawan sa isang taong may personalidad gaya ng isang obra maestrang si Mona Lisa. Isinaad naman ng singer na ang tunay na kagandahan ay hindi lamang makikita sa panlabas na anyo, kundi sa natatangi nitong kagandahan at katangian. Kamakailan lamang ay inilabas ng Hybe Labels ang bagong teaser ng music video ng Mona Lisa kung saan makikita si J-Hope na nasa isang puting silid na nakaupo at pinagmamasdan ng larawan ng isang magandang babae.
Ayan, Nina, di ba lagi natin sinasabi tayo patuloy nagbabalita sa anumang dako naman.
Tama.
And, you know, in fact, I have friends, they're from Germany, Israel, and Bali.
Wow,
and they
global.
apparently, they always watch us.
Wow,
So, these are
thank you.
Danielle and Yaniv Feldman, and of course, still dries the word.
How
So,
wonderful.
we really are reaching out to as many people, as many friends, you know, all over the world. Kaya pag sinabi po namin, narito kami para maghatid ng balita sa amang dako naman to. Totoong-totoo po. Magandang gabi. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Philippine officials today defended before the country's Senate the arrest and transfer to the International Criminal Court of former President Rodrigo Duterte as they face allegations he was illegally abducted at the behest of a foreign institution.
Nasaan po ang warrant of arrest na inisyo ng hukuman ng Pilipinas? Wala. Without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, this was at best a warrantless arrest. Under the rules of court.
And the news starts now. Philippine officials today defended before the country's Senate the arrest and transfer to the International Criminal Court of former President Rodrigo Duterte as they face allegations he was illegally abducted at the behest of a foreign institution. Vice President Sara Duterte strongly maintained that her father was taken into custody by the Philippine National Police without a warrant of arrest issued by a competent Philippine court. Instead, the only warrant presented was from the International Criminal Court.
Mr. Senator, we surrendered an individual to the ICC. We did not surrender as a country, but he was surrendered due to a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC through the Interpol.
Nasaan po ang warrant of arrest na inisyo ng hukuman ng Pilipinas? Wala. Without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, this was at best a warrantless arrest. Under the rules of court.
This assertion was also supported by former spokesman Harry Roque, who echoed similar concerns about the legality of the detention process.
Unang-una, nakita nyo naman, sabi nila dun sa kanilang sinumite na sa habeas corpus na sinampa namin para kay Congressman Pulong na binasahan daw siya nung warrant of arrest. Hindi po totoo yan. Kasi wala pong pinakitang warrant of arrest. In fact, nagkaroon lang siya ng access sa warrant of arrest ngayong araw na ito. Kasi kagabi, bago pumasok sa detention facility si Attorney Kaufman, nagpa-print sa akin ng isang kopya ng warrant of arrest. At ngayon pa lang nabasa ni Presidente yung warrant of arrest laban sa kanya. Ilang araw na nakalipas matapos na siya ay naaresto at napadala rito sa The Hague.
At the Senate hearing led by the Committee on Foreign Relations, chaired by Senator Amy Marcos, Police Major General Nicolas Torre was questioned why Vice President Sara Duterte wasn't allowed to see former President Duterte as he was being prepared for transfer to the ICC. Vice President Duterte was barred from entering Villamor Air Base at the height of her father's arrest, despite the former president requesting to see her, stating that she was his lawyer.
One more thing that I noticed in the video, no? Ang sabi ni PRRD, papasukin niyo anak ko, abogada siya. At ang sinabi mo, hindi ko siya papapasukin. Why not, General Torre?
That is a decision. That is my call, sir. That is my decision. Considering that he had already been assisted by 3 lawyers all throughout that time, sir. And gabi na ho yun, sir. The request was made at around mga 9 o'clock na, sir. 11 hours after the first arrest.
Tanggalin mo na yung titulo ni Inday Sara. Kalimutan mo na siya na Vice President siya. Pagpalagay natin hindi siya Vice President. She is an immediate member of the family. Nung kami po ay nakakulong, ang immediate members of the family, 24 hours pwede bumisita sa amin, nakakulong kami. Ito hindi pa nakakulong. Anak ito. Bakit hindi niyo pinapasok?
Maliban doon, is this not a violation of RA 7438 that requires that you guarantee access to an attorney? In addition to the immediate family, the President also said na yung anak niya, yung babae, abogado ko yun, papasukin nyo. Hindi nyo pinapasok. Abogado yun eh.
Actually, sir, first to answer the question of Senator Estrada, sir. I have told the President that they can visit him at his detention facility because at this time the order of the day is to load him into a plane. So that's what we endeavored to do, and that's what happened, sir.
Ano niya bibisitahin yung tatay niya sa Netherlands? Hindi naman dito tinray eh. Hindi naman dito kinasuhan eh. Sa ibang bansa eh. Oh. Bakit hindi niyo man lang binigyan ng kortesiya yung anak na isang abogada na magkukonsulta?
Our mission at that time, sir, is to deliver him to the body who issued the warrant, sir.
Nasa batas yan. Nasa batas yan, General.
Ko lang si Senator Jinggoy, tama po siya. Hindi lang yung immediate family, medical doctor, pare or religious minister, any national non-government organization ng CHR, international non-government accredited by the Office of the President. Lahat yan may access, pero pinagbawalan ninyo.
And here are other developments in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In a phone call described as very good by President Donald Trump, he and Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to collaborate on efforts to bring an end to the war.
Freed Ukrainian prisoners of war celebrated on Wednesday after Russia and Ukraine each agreed to release 175 captured troops. Moscow said it freed an additional 22 wounded Ukrainians as a goodwill gesture, following a phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. But just hours after that call, in which a deal was reached to pause attacks on energy infrastructure,
asked for additional air defense systems to protect his civilians, particularly Patriot missile systems, and President Trump agreed to work with him to find what was available, particularly in Europe.
She also said Trump has moved beyond a previously negotiated U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal.
We've moved beyond just the economic minerals deal framework, and we're looking at a lasting ceasefire. Right now we're at a partial ceasefire, but again, the president is sending his highly skilled, intelligent, and experienced team to Saudi Arabia later this week to continue fighting for peace in this conflict.
Trump has long promised to end Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II, but his outreach to Putin has unnerved European allies, who fear it heralds a fundamental shift after 80 years in which defending Europe from Russian expansionism was the core mission of U.S. foreign policy.
Well, Russia is trying to get a ceasefire where no additional military aid arrives in Ukraine. And that would be devastating for Ukraine because Russia will continue to receive its military supplies, both from its domestic sources and likely from the Iranians and the North Koreans. So it would greatly handicap Ukraine. And of course, the longer it went on, the more handicapped Ukraine would become. it's a condition that the Ukrainians really can't tolerate very long.
The minimum that can be achieved here is a ceasefire. And what we already see now is that the Russian side is trying to buy time. It has not agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. Vladimir Putin himself has not agreed to. And he sees benefits for Russia through direct interaction with President Trump. And demanding that he would agree to an unconditional ceasefire, he only has to discuss some things with President Trump himself, gives him an access which he knows is usually beneficial for the Russian side. So he is getting all the benefits of trying to prolong and to stall the implementation of a ceasefire. We are likely to see this continuing Russian suggestion that they are really close to agreeing to a ceasefire, but before issue X and issue Z on the US-Russian agenda has to be resolved.
The Pentagon is considering halting the expansion of U.S. military forces in Japan. This move is part of broader efforts by the Trump administration to reduce federal government spending. According to a report by CNN citing a defense official and a briefing document, stopping the planned expansion could save approximately $1.1 billion. However, it also poses political risk for the U.S. in Japan and could diminish command and control capabilities in the Pacific. The U.S. had been planning to upgrade its forces in Japan into a joint force headquarters, enhancing coordination with Japan's self-defense forces. This decision comes as the Trump administration reviews government structures, exploring options to scale down or dismantle agencies. The Department of Defense is working with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, led by Elon Musk, to identify cost-saving measures. Other proposals include merging the U.S., European, and African military commands and eliminating a directorate responsible for joint force development, training, and education. These changes reflect a broader strategy to streamline military operations while addressing rising security challenges from nations like China and North Korea. South Korea and the United States have concluded their annual joint military drills, known as Freedom Shield, after an 11-day operation. The exercises aim to bolster the defensive capabilities of the two allies against evolving threats from North Korea. The drills reaffirmed a strong alliance between South Korea and the U.S., enhancing their combined defense posture. A key highlight was a river crossing exercise held in Yeoncheon near the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea.
I think this is the best way to strengthen the U.S. alliance. If you look behind us, the bridge that was just constructed took the sheer effort of both U.S. and ROK soldiers. Two soldiers who, although they don't speak a common language, can come out here and complete a common task. I absolutely believe it is the symbol of the U.S.-ROK alliance. I don't think I could speak on the political situation at this level, but once again, I'll refer back to, regardless of politics, when asked, the soldiers in these formations, both U.S. and ROK, are stand side by side ready to support the U.S.-ROK alliance.
이번 훈련을 통해 여단 장병들이
This training provided an opportunity for the brigade soldiers to experience the importance of the South Korea-U.S. alliance and maximize the interoperability of river crossing equipment. It provided an opportunity for South Korean and the U.S. soldiers to share their know-how and master the transfer capability while conducting river crossing operations together.
This exercise is part of ongoing efforts to ensure stability and deterrence in the region amidst North Korea's increasing military cooperation with Russia. President Trump is set to take a major step towards fulfilling a key campaign promise. Today, he will sign an executive order aimed at dismantling the Department of Education. Here's more.
U.S. President Donald Trump will sign an executive order on Thursday that aims to shut down the Department of Education. According to a White House summary seen by Reuters, it's a long-awaited order that acts on a key campaign pledge by Trump, who has called the department a big con job. Trump's new Education Secretary Linda McMahon has defended the president's plan to abolish the department in what would be Trump's first shutdown of a cabinet-level agency. The order directs McMahon to, quote, take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to the states, while continuing to ensure the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. According to the summary, the order also mandates that any programs or activities receiving remaining department funds should not, quote, advance DEI or gender ideology. However, Trump cannot shutter the agency without congressional legislation, which could prove difficult. Trump's Republicans hold a 53-47 majority in the Senate, but major legislation, such as a bill eliminating the Education Department, would need 60 votes and thus the support of 7 Democrats to pass. Senate Democrats have given no sign they would support the plan. The Education Department oversees some 100,000 public and 34,000 private schools in the country. Although more than 85% of public school funding comes from state and local governments, the department provides federal grants for needy schools and programs.
And tonight we focus on a significant development in the European steel industry. The European Union has announced plans to tighten steel import quotas by 15% starting in April. Take a look. This move aims to shield the EU market from a potential surge in cheap steel imports, triggered by new tariffs imposed by the United States. European steelmakers are sounding the alarm, warning without these measures, the EU could become a dumping ground for low-cost steel, jeopardizing domestic production. In response, the European Commission is launching a comprehensive steel and metals action plan to safeguard the industry.
Il n'y a pas d'État sans acier.
There would no country without steel, and so there is no collective organization, an industry of chemistry or defense without steel. And so steel is becoming a strategic sector for us that must be defended. We will try with our tools. And I think it is reasonable for the European Commission to follow international rules. I think that if there is a need today to have an actor in the world who gives predictability, who respects international law, who is also able to have a rule of law, in short, and to have a regulatory environment that is predictable, it is the European Union. And so, yes, we will need rules that are able to predict that. What I'm saying about national security is that having the direct competence and the competence on tariffs and customs rights, we should possibly be able to opt for a concept of European security.
On devrait pouvoir, en tout cas, opter pour un concept de sécurité européen.
Under the new measures, steel imports within the established quotas, about 30 million tons last year, will remain tariff-free. However, any imports exceeding these quotas will face a 25% tariff. Looking ahead, the EU plans to introduce even stricter trade policies by 2026 to replace these safeguards. There are growing concerns that exporters from Canada, India, and China will redirect more steel to Europe as the U.S. market becomes less viable due to the tariffs.
Une partie de l'imprévisibilité, c'est aussi les relations internationales.
And a part of the unpredictability is also international relations.
Des tensions, des guerres.
And it's also the difficulty for us to anticipate tensions, wars, pandemics. And we saw that in the past, that cheap Russian gas, which was almost unlimited, has become rare, expensive. And we had to cut its supply in Europe from an international point of view. So let's avoid that tomorrow's steel is yesterday's gas. And that's why the strategy is fundamental for the EU.
Beyond trade barriers, the EU is also working on a pilot program with the European Investment Bank to help steel and aluminum producers secure stable energy contracts. Details of this initiative will be announced later this year. Political tensions are escalating in Turkey. A major opposition figure, Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, has been detained, sparking protests and accusations of a coup attempt against President Erdogan.
Protesters rallied near Istanbul's police headquarters on Wednesday following the detention of Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, President Tayyip Erdogan's main political rival. İmamoğlu was detained on charges of corruption and aiding a terrorist group. The main opposition, Republican People's Party, called the detention a coup attempt and urged opposition groups to unite. Murat Sapankaya, a municipal worker, attended the pro-Imamoglu protest.
We came here to support the mayor. They arrested him unjustly, so we are here to support him. And as a citizen of Istanbul, as the people, as citizens of the Republic of Turkey.
The move against the popular mayor follows a month-long legal crackdown on opposition figures, which has been criticized as a politicized attempt to hurt their electoral prospects. Imamoglu, who leads Erdogan in some polls, faces charges including bribery, tender rigging and aiding the Kurdistan Workers' Party or PKK, which is deemed a terrorist organization by Turkey and its Western allies.
Üzülerek söylüyorum, milletimizin.
In a video posted on social media, Imamoglu said he would not give up and would continue standing straight in the face of pressure. Erdogan's office did not immediately comment on claims that the detention was a political move. The government denies the opposition's charges, maintaining the judiciary is independent. It is meanwhile pressing to end a decades-long insurgency by the outlawed PKK after its jailed leader called for disarmament last month in what could be a big step toward regional peace. The next election is set for 2028, but Erdogan has reached his two-term limit as president. If he wishes to run again, he must call an early election ahead of finishing his term or change the constitution. Erdogan faced his worst electoral defeat last year when Imamoglu's CHP swept Turkey's major cities and defeated his ruling AK party in former strongholds in nationwide municipal elections.
The mayor of Istanbul is the second most important elected post in Turkey after the presidential office, because the ministers in Turkey is right now being appointed, not elected, after the change of the political system from parliamentary to the presidential system. And in this regard, the post of the mayor of Istanbul is the second most important post in the country. And what has happened is therefore has the potential and will have the potential to upend the whole political picture in the country, the relation between the opposition and government. Now the climate for such a broader new form of relationship between Europe and Turkey will be very poisoned, will be very affected by what has just happened. So in a sense, we might still see the defense industry and the security cooperation, geopolitical cooperation, but that might not extend to other fields that will be very much beneficial for Turkey.
Italy's Mount Etna is putting on a fiery display. Europe's most active volcano is erupting again, lighting up the night sky with spectacular Strombolian bursts. That's right, the Italian National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, or INGV, reported that the activity began Wednesday evening with new bursts erupting from the southeast crater. Multiple vents have become active, creating a dramatic scene. If an ash plume forms, forecast models suggest it would likely drift east-southeast, carried by the prevailing winds. Seismic data shows a significant increase in volcanic tremor amplitude, now reaching high levels. While Etna is known for its frequent and spectacular eruptions, the INGV is closely monitoring the situation, and so far, no major disruptions have been reported. Although there are no reports of significant ground deformation, experts are maintaining a vigilant watch on Mount Etna. The volcano's activity serves as a reminder of the powerful forces at work beneath the Earth's surface. A severe dust storm swept through New Mexico, causing widespread disruptions and forcing the closure of major highways. The storm reduced visibility to almost zero in some areas, making it extremely hazardous for drivers. Eyewitness videos captured the intensity of the storm, with dust swirling around vehicles and homes, making it impossible to see beyond a few feet. The National Weather Service issued urgent warnings about the zero visibility conditions and potential health risks, especially for infants and the elderly. In response to the storm, New Mexico's Transportation Department closed a significant stretch of Interstate 10, along with other state highways to prevent accidents. And imagine this, a ball of dust turning the sky a hazy yellow and whipping winds strong enough to make trees dance. And that's what El Paso experienced on Tuesday as a powerful dust storm rolled through. And these eyewitness videos show people navigating sidewalks with limited visibility. The whole city blanketed in this yellow dust cloud. National Weather Service got involved, issuing an emergency alert around 11 a.m. local time. They initially expected the dust storm warning to last until 2 p.m., but then things got a bit more intense. And local reports say another warning was issued shortly after, suggesting this storm was packing a punch. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang NET25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Finland has once again been crowned the happiest country in the world, and that is according to the latest World Happiness Report.
They have lots of resources, GDP, and especially they share it very equally. So it's a rising tide lifting all boats approach with them. They also redistribute this level of income through the welfare state, which takes and helps out people who otherwise fall off the ship. And that gives them a safety net, which provides psychological safety as well, which is obviously very important in the way people feel. And then there is they exhibit healthy lifestyles, healthy behaviors, resulting in healthy life expectancy, and a healthcare system which is mostly universal and free. And then, importantly, social support. So they trust each other, both others in the community around them, but also the institutions. And that turns out to be really, really important and a bit of a differentiator from other rich countries with long life expectancies.
This marks its 8th year at the top with a score of 7.75 out of 10. Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden follow closely behind, while Afghanistan ranks last with a score of 1.36. Interestingly, sharing meals with others is also linked to well-being globally. However, the report highlights a rise in anxiety and stress worldwide. A provocative call from France that has sparked a heated debate across the Atlantic. A French politician, Raphael Glucksmann, has suggested that the United States should return the iconic Statue of Liberty to France. Take a look. This comes amid concerns that America no longer upholds the values of freedom and democracy that the statue represents. Glucksmann, a member of the European Parliament, argues that recent U.S. policies under President Trump have betrayed these ideals.
Ne laissons jamais. Let's make sure we never, ever let the Trump and Musk fan club into our country. Rendez-nous la statue de la liberté. Give us back the Statue of Liberty. On vous en a fait cadeau. We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise it. Mais apparemment vous la méprisez.
And his comments have drawn a sharp response from the White House, which firmly rejected the idea of returning the statue.
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
The Statue of Liberty has stood as a symbol of freedom and democracy in New York Harbor
for nearly 140 years. It was a gift from France to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the American Declaration of Independence. Despite the controversy, it's unlikely that France can reclaim the statue, because according to UNESCO, the Statue of Liberty is U.S. government property and a World Heritage treasure. Glucksmann has since clarified that his statement was intended as a wake-up call for the U.S. He emphasized that while the statue belongs to America, its ideals belong to everyone.
From the screen to reality, Star Wars droids made a surprising appearance at NVIDIA's conference.
So I think it's because you see not a mechanical system, you see a believable robotic character that emotes, right? So, it can express happiness, it dances, but it can also express that it's shy at the moment. So it also can express that it is a bit angry. So if you come too close and it needs its space, right, then it can express that it's angry. So it's these emotions and it's sort of a fully complete character that we were able to build. I think that touches people in. The technology is so good that you don't see the technology any longer. And so that's exactly the goal of the Walt Disney Company. So what's interesting about these droids is that they learn how to walk with reinforcement learning. So we use reinforcement learning that is similar to how we humans learn to walk. So we bring these droids into a simulation environment, and so we have some artist-provided motion. And so at the beginning they fall all the time if they try to take first steps, but then we ask them to imitate artist-provided motion. So over time they know how to walk in a stylized way that is authentic to the character.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.